All right, guys, we got to talk about a serious issue here, and it's turning in place. It doesn't seem like it gets enough attention. As you see here, I'm skating around, and we want to prevent that. I have a solution. It's not perfect, but it's going to work. It's going to look a lot better than this. So what we're going to do is stop our guy from skating, and we're also going to get that to replicate. It's going to be somewhat similar to our first video, but it's going to drive me nuts if I'm trying to give you guys tutorials and he's doing this sort of stuff. So once again, let's go into our character's blueprint. Just click him, edit blueprint, open the blueprint editor. Okay. Get this over here. So what we want to look for is our axis turning on our mouse. So you kind of got to look around. It's easy to get these confused, but here we go. This is our input axis turn. Like I showed you in a previous video, under the project settings, input axis turn, it originates over here, just project settings. If you want to get there yourself, you can just settings, project settings, go into your input, and then somewhere around here is the mouse. I can't see it for some reason. Turn, mouse X right there. I believe that's what it's called. Input axis turn. Yep, there it is. Same thing. So what we want to do is, as soon as your mouse turns, it fires off this data right here, and it goes into the controller yaw. So go ahead and promote this to a variable. Now you don't, there's two ways to do it. You could do it like that. You could also just press plus over here and it'll create a new variable, and then you rename it. We'll just call it axis turn for right now. And once again, this is just a generic float variable, getting information from the mouse, float information. If you move right, it's a positive value, and if you move less, it's a negative, or left, it's a negative value. We'll go ahead and throw it on right here. Okay, so we need to get this information from our character. I'm just switching between the viewport and the event graph. We need to get this information over to our animations. I'm just compiling and saving, and do that all the time. So to do that, first I need to find where our animations are kept, and they're kept in a blueprint. It's called the animation blueprint, and to locate it, I just click on the mesh character here and the magnifying glass, and I'll take you right there. And in the before I named various classes and blueprints, I'm going to use that interchangeably. Same thing. Classes and blueprints. So I'm going to rename it so that way it's easier to find when we're looking for them. So press F2 and then put something you'll remember in front. I use Mark because it's my name. So double click on here. And this document holds all of his animation settings, everything like that. So we just added axis turn, and we need to get that from our character. All I did here was cast to the Mark third person character, and we're going to get our axis turn. And there it is. I typed in axis, and you can see get axis turn. That's what we want to do. So from get axis turn, we're going to go ahead and promote that to a variable. I could right click here, but I'm going to go ahead and show you the other way just by clicking the plus button. And then I'm going to name it axis turn. And then press enter. You notice right now it's red. Red in Unreal Engine is the bool value, and a bool is a simple yes or no. That's not going to work in this situation. It won't even let you hook it up. So just how to change that without opening Windows. Click the little red thing right here, and then just switch it over to float. Change variable type, yes. And it's going to act like it's a big deal, but it's not. We'll just go over here, and we want to set. Now, it's important to know the difference between get and set. When you're getting the information, it's literally that. You're just grabbing the information from where it was. When you're setting it, then you're changing something. So we are going to change something. It's this variable that's kept on our animation blueprint. So you're getting the information from the character blueprint and you're setting it in the animation blueprint. So that's why it's a set, even though it's named the same. You might ask, well, why can't we just use the same variable from the character to drive the animations directly, and rather than do it like this? This is just how we do it in programming. You should try not to directly change variables from another class or blueprint. You shouldn't do that. You should try to do it by just modifying the internal variable, if that makes sense. And you'll catch on to that as we go on. So you just plug this in right here, and there you go. Now that we have our axis turn, I want to show you what it actually is, because you have no idea. So I'm going to go back to my character. Okay, I want to show you what values this thing is spitting out. So to do that, this is the most used node, the most important node you'll ever have. It's a function called print string. I just right-clicked on my mouse, and I'm going to type print string right there. Okay, and what this does, it's going to show you what values are coming out of your variables. You just got to set it up a little bit. So I put it in line. Remember, the white line is the signal flow. Okay, but I have to give it a value, or otherwise it's going to be every time I turn the mouse, as you'll see, it's just going to say hello, which is useless to us. What we want is to plug this right in here, and it already takes it from a string, which is a word. That's all a string is. It's an array of characters. We'll get into arrays and stuff like that later. But it converts it from a float into a string, and a string is like a word that we can read. And our word happens to be a number. That's not confusing enough. So all I did right there is I just click Save All. I do it habitually, so that way I don't lose anything. And compile. Anyway, click play. Okay, and as you can see, since we're on the client, you can tell we're on the client because in the very top, by pressing Shift F1, you'll get your arrow back, and you can see up here we're client number 1. I'm going to go ahead and, just because it's driving me crazy, press Windows, press left, click on our right one, and then you can see when I'm going left, we have negative values, and when I'm going right, I'm having positive values, and when I'm standing still, I have 0. This is very important. We're going to make decisions based off these. Basically, when it's negative, we're going to fire a left turn-in-place animation, and we move right, we're going to have a right turn-in-place animation, and there's going to be some logic behind that. So let me escape out of here. I'm going to go back into our animation. If you close the tab for whatever reason, just click Mesh. Click on the magnifying glass. It'll take you down to Mark Anim Blueprint. Double click on that, and we're back here. So we are in the event graph. We want to go into the anim graph, and you can get there by clicking on anim graph. Okay, double click your state machine, and then go into your idle. My mistake. Go out of your idle. These little back buttons, forward buttons are great. You can get in and you can get out really easy. So from our idle, this is the only time as of right now that we're going to need to go to our turn in place animations. So first off, we need to bring up our animations. So to do that, let's head over to our asset browser by clicking up here. Okay. And we'll type in turn, and nothing will pop up. That's because earlier we deleted our skeleton that was assigned to turn left and turn right, and right now this guy doesn't have turn and left or turn right assigned to him at all. So we'll go back into our main screen here. We'll go to the Rifle Anim Set Pro, and we're going to go to our animations. Now we're going to use in-place animations. Believe it or not, our main movement blend space, I believe, is not using in-place animations. What we're going to have to do is change that later on, and I'll explain later what the difference is, but we should be using for multiplayer games. We're going to try to use in-place animations. That's what we want. So type in turn, and then you'll get the turn 90. I'm trying to look for a turn, rifle turn L90. There should be a loop in here. Rifle turn R90 loop. Yeah, we'll start here. Rifle turn R90 loop. These names can get confusing. Double click on it. It couldn't find the skeleton, just like we knew. Do we want to give it a new one? Of course we do. Yes. We want to give it to the Mark Mannequin skeleton, which we named. Go ahead and retarget that. And then there you go. That's the animation. And just as a refresher, this is from the Rifle Anim Set Pro. Go back into your main screen. Type in turn again. And then it's a rifle turn right loop. I'm sure you guys are seeing it. Rifle turn left 90 loop. Double click that. We're doing the same thing. Do you want to find a skeleton? Yes. Mark Mannequin skeleton. That's what we want to retarget it to. Retarget. And then we have those animations. Okay, go back to your main screen. Click over here. It's a quick way to get to save all. Yes, save all. Now we're going to go back into our blueprint. If you closed your tab, click on your character. And if you don't, let's say you deleted this character, you can still find it. You're just going to have to weed through all this stuff and get there. So open the blueprint editor, click mesh, go to the blueprint tab, double click on the blueprint. Once again, I did not need to go in there. So let's see if these actually pop up now. Yep, there they are. Sometimes, if you notice, I had to exit out and then type in turn again into our filters before it showed up. So we have our rifle turn left. There it is. You can just drag and drop animations directly on here if you want. And our rifle turn right. Okay, so now these arrows coming in here, they represent the direction that the animation is going to, conditions that the animation is going to go into that animation. Okay, so it's just easier to show you. So it's coming from the idle, which is just standing around, and we're going to go into our turn right 90s loop. So there's going to be a certain circumstance that causes us to go into that animation. So to do that, we want to double click on there, and we have to get our axis turn, which is right here. Okay, and this axis turn was what we set earlier from the character blueprint, which is reading from our mouse. So if the axis turn, you just drag off like this, and then do your greater than symbol, is greater than 0, then we're going to go into the right turn animation. Now, there's another circumstance that has to be present before it should go into that. And that is that our speed, now speed, this was already set by Epic. They already had this in here, and it's a simple calculation, but we need to go ahead and get our speed. And our speed, and just double tap equals, and you want equal float, enter. And our speed is equal to 0, because if you were running, you wouldn't want to start doing a turn in place animation. It'd look insane. Okay, so very important. Drag off of here, and it returns a bool. So greater than 0, it's going to say yes or no. Returns a bool. We want to make it and, not SMF, and. One of these days I'll get it. And boolean. Okay? And once again, a bool, it's short for boolean, is a yes or no answer, because that's what this thing accepts. Okay, so if our axis turn is greater than 0 and our speed is equal to 0, then we can go into the animation. Okay, make sense? So we're backing out of there. Now, we need to have conditions to come out of the animation, or else he's going to continue to twirl no matter what you do. So, to come out of the right turn animation is going to be 2 conditions. So we get our move, I'm sorry, we don't need that. We need our axis turn. And let me make sure I did that right on here. Yeah, I did. Okay, back to where we were. So if our axis turn is less than 0, and actually it can be 2 conditions. It can be less than or equal to 0, because if we're not turning the mouse left or right, that'd be another reason not to be spinning or doing a turn in place animation. And we're going to get our speed. If our speed is greater than 0. Okay, so if our speed's greater than 0, and you kind of got to think about this in your head. If your speed is greater than 0, you don't want to be spinning around anymore. If you're turning to the left, you don't want to be playing a right animation. Either one of those. So it's not going to be and. And the other one, it was an and condition. And with an and condition, just like in English writing, it means both. With or, it could mean either, and that's what we want. So drag off that bool line right there and type in or boolean. Okay, and at that time it can enter in the transition, which means it can get out of there. We're gonna have to do similar things for the other way. So we're gonna go into our rifle turn, the L loop. Double click. Okay, so if our axis turn is less than 0, we want to go in there and boolean our speed is double tap equal to 0. Then we want to go ahead and enter the transition. Back out. We want to exit the transition if our speed is greater than 0 or our axis turn is greater than or equal to 0. And it's an either or condition. So sometimes I got to step back and I got to think about this, make sure I got it right. So if I am moving around, I don't want to be spinning along, turning, doing any animations. Or if I'm turning to the right or equal to 0, then I don't want to go in. That's right, I believe. We'll find out here in just a second. Okay, I just compiled, and I'm going to save all. I'll compile, save, and then I do a save all. So we're going to go back into our main screen, and we're going to see what we screwed up, because inevitably, there's something. Okay, I pressed play. Looks like he started to do something. Okay, so I'm turning left. Okay, so here's what you need to pay attention to. I shift F1, I click on my client, Windows, oh, and it flew away. Here, it's back. Okay, so the client, you can see on the client, which is the left screen, I'm moving right, he's moving right. I move left, he's moving left. But notice, on client 2, you're not seeing any replication. And that's what we're going to talk about. But first, I want to fix this, and I want to fix the animation because it's god awful. He's like hopping around. He's jerking his whole body, which doesn't look like a whole lot. But let's say you got a gun in your hand and you're shooting. It's going to look really strange when you're shooting and he's jerking around that much. So let's go ahead and fix this. Okay, this is kind of where we got to get a little fancy to figure this out. So let's go into our animation, and here's our turn right 90 loop and our turn left 90 loop. Let's go into our turn right 90 loop first. Okay, so what I first want to do is and I even have to refer to my notes on this one. It's a little goofy. I got them over here. So there's a node called layered blend per bone. Okay, and what this node does is it plays different animations, not on conditions like we set up earlier, but it's going to play different animations based off of the bone. Okay, so let me give you an example. First, we have to have the base. So all I did was back out. We need the base pose, and the base pose, it's going to be our idle. That's easy. So let's double click into our idle, and let's just pull this out. Okay, Control C for copy, back out, go into our turn right, and then we're going to go ahead and Control V. Okay, that's going to be our base. All right, easy. All right. Now, blend 0. What blend 0 is going to be, if I can have access to it. Oh, click the details. So we're getting squished over here. Okay, you're noticing stuff over here is all messed up. Click layered blend per bone. Layer setup. Layer 0. Okay, branch filters. Press plus. Down click over here. It just keeps going. We finally got to a bone name. Okay, so we want to control it by the legs because this thing is only controlling the legs. We don't want it bobbing the whole body around. So type in thigh underscore L. Okay, I didn't just come up with that. I have it memorized because I've done this damn thing so many times. Thigh underscore L is Unreal Skeleton's name for this dude's left thigh. And I'm going to show you how you could find out the name of bone names here in just a second. Now, blend depth, we're going to have it at 1 for right now. And then we're going to tab down to mesh space rotation. We want to click that. And the reason we want that is it helps things all blend together. You don't do that and they're going to be going different directions. Trust me, fool around with it and you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, that's for blend 0. But we have to do it for the right leg too. So this is where, if it's not already confusing enough, here's where it gets even worse. See this? Press the plus pin here. Okay, that's one where you get to press plus. You also have to do it over here. Okay, and then it just closed what I did. So open them all back up so you reference. That's 0, that refers to this 0. Press the down here, okay? And that 1 refers to here. We're in programming, so 0 is 1 and 1 is... Okay, we start counting at 0. It doesn't make sense, but that's the way we do it. So for 1, we're going to make this one thigh underscore R. Okay? Blend depth, 1. And I think that mesh will cover that. Okay. I think I named them right. We're going to have to double check. It has to be right. It can't be any white spaces in there. It has to be exact. So if you're having problems, that'd be the first place to check. Now, it's giving me this notice here. There's a reason, because I don't have my animation set up. So for both of these blend poses, we're going to use the turn 90 loop. Okay. And so you're asking me, what is this madness? Why is he doing it like this? I don't understand. I didn't understand either until I actually did it. And let me just go ahead and show you. So I'm going to go over here. You remember earlier I had renamed everything. I had the skeleton, the physics asset, and the mesh. Well, they're all tied together in some way, shape, or form. So that's why I named them all earlier on. To access the skeleton that we're using, click the skeleton. It pops up. Now this looks like chaos, but it's really not. It's the organization of his bone structure. Okay. Now, they all have a parent-child relationship. So the pelvis, or the spine is linked to the pelvis. This spine is linked to here. Here you can watch. When you collapse them, you can see their relationships. Basically, one is the boss over the other one, right? So if you take from the pelvis all the way up you're getting into the fingers and stuff. But let's say you take the pelvis already all the way down. Okay? You're getting into all these IK, which is not what we're messing with. Open this up. Close the spine. Okay. So you can see right here that the spine and the thigh, collapse that, and the thigh there. Okay. These almost act like their own entities at this point. So from the thigh on down, thigh L on down, and thigh R on down, the chain of bones are controlled by the thigh L. So if I call thigh L in the animation blueprint, everything down this chain is gonna be controlled by whatever I've declared in the animation. I know it's really hard to make that make sense, but when you start messing with these various bone chains, you'll see what I mean. So basically what I'm getting at is we only want to affect thigh L and thigh R. Now you're like, well, why couldn't you just do it to the pelvis? Why couldn't you apply those animations to the pelvis? Well, if I applied them to the pelvis, then that turn R and turn L, where he's all bobbing all over the place, looking all crazy, it's going to affect spine 1, spine 2, spine 3, all the way down the chain. It goes all the way to the end of the chain, all the way to the fingers and the wrists and the neck, even the neck, and it goes all the way down from the pelvis. So if you can look at this guy, so basically the chain starts here and it shoots up and it goes into the arms and it goes all the way through and all the way to the head. The other part of the chain that after spine 1's about right here. So from spine, I misspoke. It's from spine 1 all the way through. Pelvis is the big daddy of it all. It controls it all. But from the thighs, they're kind of their own branch, and they come off. So you can wherever you declare this, it's going to affect it down the chain. So for example, if I were to say, I don't know, from knee on down, whatever the knee, I think it's like lower leg. I can't remember the spelling of it. It's only going to affect the animations from the knee on down. If you were to set the bone in bone pose 0, you gotta click on there. Like say you set lower leg here, then it would only be affecting from there on down. So long story short, that is how you can affect bones. You got to think of them where they start and where they end up. Okay, so you play around with that. Now the blend weights on here, I don't like this animation at all. It's terrible animation, but it's all we got. And there are certain weights that you should use. And for the turn right, I only want the animation affecting it about 0.75. And for the other one, I want to do it at about 0.5. And those numbers are from me playing around with it. Okay, you're not just supposed to know that stuff. That's just from playing around. So don't think I came up with that. Okay, I'm gonna have to interrupt this small little issue here. Working on this layered blend per bone has one small issue. This one has to be moved down to here. Now, it's not a big deal. All it would do is render these not really affecting anything. So to fix that, all we have to do is press our plus button here, drop this 0 down, and then move it the thigh underscore R, change the value to 1. All right, and then this guy here, he can go away since we've moved him down there. So just hit this drop down, delete it, and there you go. Now they keep collapsing, which adds to the confusion in the first place, which is probably why the mistake happened. But now you have 0 corresponds to that 0. This 1 corresponds to that 1, and these layers will now be effective. All right, so if these values are a little different from anything you see in the future, no big deal. You can change these up whatever you want, but I still want them to have an effect. And the other way we had it, it wasn't going to do anything. So we should be good now. Okay, so that's pretty much set there. Okay, so we got to back out. And we're going to have to do it for the other side, but I don't really want to do all that typing again. I'm going to copy it, but I don't want those animations because I'll confuse myself. Control C, We're going to back out. We're going to go to our turn left 90 loop. Make sure I'm still recording. Control V. All right. And then we're going to take this out, break it, right click, break link. We're going to copy it as well. Control C, Control V. Okay. And the left and right animations are different, so these blend weights are a little bit different. Once again, it's just my preference. You could leave them 0. It's really not that big of a deal, but they were yanking them around still a little too much. So I have 0.6 for 1 and 0.75, or I'm sorry, 0.6 for 0 and 0.75 for 1. That's what I found worked for me. So compile, save, go back to your main screen, okay, save all. Now we press play, okay. Now, he's not, the top of his body isn't yanking around like a madman, okay. You can see on the right side of the screen, it's still not replicated yet. We're getting there. But he's moving around. Now, this isn't perfect, but remember, if you're doing a third-person shooter or even a first and third-person shooter, that camera, it's going to be so close. In most games, you don't even see the feet. Like if you look at Ark, play Ark and watch where that camera goes when you try to look at his feet while you're turning in place. They have the camera set so that you won't. It'll like go up over your head. It does a bunch of weird stuff. They do it so you really don't. So you're not seeing this. There are some games that do. There's some games that do it great. There's some games where if you look really close, they're just sliding around, and that drives me absolutely mad. So when we get to the point to where we're controlling the camera, we're going to bring it in close, and this will look even better. It's not perfect, but it's better than just sliding all over the place. Additionally, you can defeat this. If you spin hard enough. Now we're looking at the left one. You can make it so he doesn't look like he's doing much animation at all, but he is doing a little bit, and that's better than him gliding. I don't know why, it drives me crazy. So anyway, let's get to what this is all about, replication. So I'm escaping out of here. We're going to go into our character blueprint. I've showed you a million times how to get in there, so I'm just going to click it. I have it already open. Okay, so we verified that everything's worked so far, so you know what? We're going to destroy this anyway when we go to replicate. So like last time, right-click, custom event, add custom event, and let's just call it axis turn to server, okay? Like last time, I just compiled and saved, okay? Like last time, we want to have it take a float value, so click on it, press the plus button, and we're going to turn that into a float by doing the drop down, click float, got it? And what did I call that one? Axis turn. I don't like to keep them the same. You probably can. I'm probably just being paranoid. So axis tur. And then what we're going to do is we are going to pull this off of here, and we're going to set it into there. Doing things a little out of order, but we'll walk through it, so it's not a big deal. Right click, break your link. Right click, break your link. Do it again. I should have done break all the links, but that's okay. And once it comes to the server, once it comes through the server, we're going to have it come into here. Now, I think I almost forgot something, so I'm going to compile, save, click on this guy. Yeah, exactly. So this will happen to you. This is where you can run into errors very easily, or not errors, but just not working. Click on this right here. See, it says not replicated. That defeats the whole purpose of that. Do the drop down, run on server, and we want it to be reliable. Okay? We are going to break this off right here. This is our print string, and we're going to delete this. Now remember, once we create this, it generates the, we got to call it because we're going to have a node that's generated. So let's right click and type in axis turn to server. We got it. And we're going to connect up the axis value. We're going to throw it right in there like that. And we're going to connect it up here like that. So now you turn on the mouse, it calls axis turned to server. It will fire this, which is told to run on the server reliably, and then it will hit here. And you would think, oh, that's great, it's going to work. No, it doesn't work that way. There's one more step. Click on your value, make sure it's replicated. Okay, you click on the variable, go to replication, make sure it's replicated. All right. Now, there's some of you that might be asking, well, why are you sending a float? And we'll get into that. So I saved all. I'm going to press play. Okay, let's see. Oh, look at that. Okay. Shift F1, grab your client, Windows left arrow, click on the guy right here. Now look at this. Okay, it's not perfect, but it's better than gliding around like a madman. Look at that. Okay, so it's being replicated. So this is our client, the client test. Just to show you, it works on both clients. It's being replicated. Okay, and now we are going to do, and I haven't really explained this very well. When I'm clicking around these cameras, you want to get, you know, you can have 1 million players. I wouldn't do that, you'll crash your system, but this little arrow down here, click it, and you can change the number of players, and it can go up, and you just put it what you want. But I keep it at 2. That's fine. That's all we need right now. If you've got a great system, bump it up. If you've got a junky system, well, that's just how it is. Anyway, we did it on a dedicated server. Well, I explained before. We're going to do it on the non-dedicated system, so we're going to uncheck this. All right. Okay, it's unchecked, and then we're going to press play. Okay, and then this guy over here to our left, Shift F1. Oh, no, I did that backwards. Windows left. Click on this. Now our server is going to come over to our client, and the client can see the server. Shift F1, go over here to our client, and the server can see the client. You got to check it this way because we're eventually going to get to the point to where we are multicasting. I don't know when. I just basically, when it doesn't work, running to the server, then we'll start multicasting. That's how I do it. I'm sure there's somebody out there who could tell me all the details on why, but this works for now. This is what's working. It looks okay to me. But anyway, back to what I was saying earlier about why we're using this float value, because what's happening is this is a lot of data. You think about it, you have 50, let's say you have 100 people playing on a server. It's spitting, you saw how fast it was spitting out those values when we had the print screen. It was like boom, 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 boom. Well, all that data is going to the server, and somebody might say, well, you should use a bool, you know, which is a yes or a no, and then when those values are greater than 0, turn the bool to true, and then it'll turn right. And then if it's not, make it false, and then you're only sending a yes or a no. The problem with that is that on occasion the server gets confused. It doesn't get the data. So if you're only sending one yes or a no, what can happen is your character will enter into the animation, and then that no signal will come, and for whatever reason it misses it. It doesn't get it. Sometimes this happens, and then you're stuck in this turning right animation until you turn left again. So this, I mean, you'll see this in buggy games where your character just continually doing an animation until you press a sequence of buttons or you jump or whatever. So it's a happy medium. There's various ways you could do it that are probably more reliable than a yes or a no, and not as, that won't bog you as down as sending all this float data over. But right now this is pretty solid, and more than likely you're not going to be having tens and tens of people playing on the same server at this stage. So this is how it works for right now. In the upcoming videos, we're going to work on our camera stuff. And then after we get our guy set up, then we're going to get real deep and heavy into the more complicated replication stuff. I wish it was all this easy where you just have a custom event and then you run it through the custom event and replicate, but it's not. It gets crazy, especially when you have, everything from particle effects, projectiles, and then inventory systems. And inventory systems, that's probably one of the more complex. You can do multiplayer things, but we're going to get into it. We're going to cover it all. And then when we get all done with that, then we can maybe start going into the first getting it looking like the actual demo that I had with the first person perspectives. So for right now, that's all we have. Stay tuned, more to come.